Guten Abend, meine Damen en Herren. Welkom zu den Hanover Evening News. Erste in Klarheit, Unverantwortlichkeit. Hast du jemals einen weißen Elefanten gesehen? Yes, I'm asking you, have you ever seen a white elephant? Well, I have, and tonight we'll explain. This is so serious that I had to adorn myself with the gab for the occasion. Now, if you didn't know better, you would have believed, based on how much this new so-called Polaris teaching hospital, research hospital, and tourism hospital is being touted, you would have believed that this is something unique in the Caribbean and the world. Remember, their words, they wanted to be the go-to place for teaching, research, and tourism hospital in the Caribbean. But if you don't know, tonight we would educate you a little bit. There exists currently in Trinidad and Tobago the Mount Hope Eric Williams Science Medical Complex. It's pretty much what they're talking about. The only difference is they had to sweeten the pot and make it look a little more attractive by adding tourism hospital to Polaris. One of the most important things when we're considering any project, even if it's a project to fix your backyard, you must consider the financial viability of the project. You must consider the cost of the project. And you have to ask yourself, where am I going to get the funding for the project? That is critical in any project. So let's put things a little in perspective. Now, first and foremost, the GDP of Grenada in 2024 was $1.4 billion. Now, the GDP of Trinidad and Tobago in 2024 was $44 billion. Now, based on research, the medical complex was built in 1983, around 1983. And the cost of construction was around 1.6 billion TT dollars. That is roughly equivalent to $235 million, $640,000, $648. Okay, let's call it $236 million. US dollars. So let's rough it out. Let's say 236 million US dollars. Now keep in mind that was done in 1983. So today, that would be equivalent to 755 million US dollars. Okay, so now we've got some perspective of what an 84-acre teaching, research, and tourism hospital will cost. Again, keep in mind, I said the gross domestic product of Grenada in 2024 was $1.4 billion, a meager $1.4 billion. The gross domestic product of Trinidad and Tobago in 2024 was $44 billion. Now, Trinidad seems like, obviously, you can see the disparity in the economy, can afford to make much of the medical services in the Eric Williams Medical Science Complex free. They can afford to do that. Again, with a GDP of $44 billion compared to Grenada's $1.4 billion. Well, that's a vast difference. So the point is, as we've seen, based on calculations, it's quite possible that this complex that they're talking about would be in excess of over 800 million US dollars. So I'm wondering where the funding for that project is going to come. And after you've built it, you've got to maintain it. So when I said to you that this was a white elephant, I was not joking. And I was not trying to be sarcastic. I was actually being practical. And I want you to understand the metaphorical implications of what a white elephant is. It is a burdensome possession. You see what I'm saying? It is something that possibly will bankrupt the economy of Grenada. Okay? And to maintain this, salaries, just maintenance of that structure would be phenomenal, considering a Grenadian circumstance. So I can only imagine the plan is to build this teaching, research, and tourism hospitals like how some of the masses of Grenadian people are forced to build their house. That is why they've given you a 15-year timeline. So, you see a lot of houses in Grenada. People, they work and they try not to owe the bank so much sometimes. And they will build one section of the house, might have been in wood, and then you see that surrounded in brick or blocks. And over a period of time, they'll build their house. So I don't know. Probably the government intends to use that same model, to build a teaching hospital. So let me give you a little more perspective from the same Eric Williams Medical Complex. Now, the oncology department alone costs $69 million to build. We're not talking about the requirements of staffing and personnel to maintain this building. So now you know, and now you have a little more perspective of all of this, you may realize that a lot of this is indeed a gimmick and a white elephant. But as I have said before, the aim here is not necessarily to see this to fruition. There's a more sinister plot. It is to play with, to toy with, the honest ambitions of the Grenadian people, the yearning for something, the yearning for proper, efficient medical services. Now, this is not the approach. A fantastic white elephant over 15 years is not the approach. The more I delve into this, the more I believe that the true agenda behind all of this is quite possibly a pocket-filling scheme of sorts. And it's just a matter of time as this unfolds, it will prove exactly my suspicions. And I know some of you out there who are pretty smart and see this for what it is. It will confirm your suspicions also. So until the sponsor of the program can tell you where they are going to get 755 and probably closer to $900 million to get this done. Until such time, you should be straightforward. You should be direct, and you should demand clarity on this issue. You should demand accountability on this issue. All this dilly-dallying about, we're in the planning stages and we're looking to get, the right people for the project and stuff like that. Yeah. What is interesting also, I guess they didn't get enough buzz from the press briefing. I mean, Grenadian people, they'll go along with you, but after a while they say, no. Grenadians are strange and funny people. They say, you know what? I think you're BSing us. Okay? I think you're BSing us. And I think they're at that stage. So they didn't get enough buzz from the press briefing. So now you see the sponsor, interestingly enough, went on right along. A super friendly media outlet to the current administration. And, this is my guy, so he generally tries to be, the middle of the road sometimes. But we understand, it's actually a NDC friendly, program. And that's all right. So it was even touted as her first time. It was even touted as her first time on the Ride Along program. Again, this is no slight at my guy. He does his job and he does it pretty well. He has a very good program. So let's be clear on that. But of course, you can tell, he gave it an easy ball questions. He didn't give it any hardball questions, and that's okay. I understand. Nobody asked about who's going to pay for this. Okay? Again, I've, detailed a little bit of the things that are involved in this. And this is not something that one person or two persons or three persons are going to handle. Doesn't work like that. This requires a serious team of people who knows exactly what they're doing. And on top of that, even in negotiations and in the planning stages, you need people who can actually be there to represent the government's interests, who again know exactly what is involved in this. So it's not just a question of just, oh, we're looking to hire the right people to get this done, the right firm, architectural and engineering firm. No, it's not just that. There's be thorough oversight. Okay? There must be thorough oversight by the government. People who knows exactly what's going on so they can monitor if they're serious about getting this done. And of course, I'm not talking about this fantastical idea of the Polaris, right? I'm talking about something a little more scaled down and it's more appropriate to the Grenadian situation and is economically viable. Unless, of course, you want afforded opportunity to, have unexplained expenses. You need people, as we would say, who have the government's back. But being an old New Yorker myself, trust me, we know a hustle when we see it. So, the gimmick is over. Let's be realistic. Let's bring something to the table that makes sense, that is appropriate for the Grenadian situation, then we'll probably take you guys a little more serious. And on that note, guten Abend.